I'm State Representative Carolyn Tomei, and you are watching Milwaukee Today. This is the third in a series of looking at Milwaukee yesterday. We had so much fun with these three gentlemen from last week. We invited them to come back. So they're here to talk more about Milwaukee from yesterday. Please help me welcome Dick Schindler, Jim Newman, and Clair Kuppenbender. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for coming back. This is wonderful. We had such a good time. We sort of left off talking about some of the businesses in downtown Milwaukee, and we talked about your grandparents coming and your parents all coming to the Milwaukee area. One of the things that I heard you talking about earlier was something about a fire during when there was a meeting or something of the volunteer firefighters.
Right. Well, at that time, even right after the Second World War, the Milwaukee had a volunteer fire department and police department. All during the Second World War, there was only one paid policeman. And then the business people and other people around Milwaukee took 2-hour shifts being the policeman.
2-hour shifts?
Yeah, 2 hours. They worked through the night. The dad would get up at night, go down, and then put on the 38, and away you went. And fire department was the same. There was Don Llewellyn, who I think a grandson of the original Llewellyns, which is where Llewellyn Farm was part of Waverly Country Club now. They were all through there. Then Don Llewellyn was there, and he had one assistant, and that was muffin buyer. And the volunteer would meet and show pictures of how to put out fires on 16mm film. And I was there with my dad. I was at early high school, and the Milwaukee Box Factory, which is right where the Milwaukee sewage treatment plant is now, between just north of the boat works. And that they got an alarm there, and of course fire travels in those kind of buildings fast you can walk. But he had like 20, 30 volunteers there, and everybody's rushed down there, and muffin buyer grabs the hose, and nowadays they treat fires inside. He went into the building.
Oh, from the outside, you mean? They treat him from the outside.
Treat the outside. He went into the building, and down the corridor to where that was coming, and all that fire was coming at us faster than I expected, faster than you could walk, just sweeping down there. And we walked right into it, and he had the fog spray on it and fogged that all in. We were right under the water, and this fog and stopped this fire continued on into the main building.
When you say fog, did you mean water? He sprayed it with water?
Yeah, the water was, instead of a hard deal, he had it sprayed. Oh. So that fog of water, well, it turned to steam, I guess. I remember the fog now. I never thought about it, but it's steam over our head. But he was putting it out from inside and stopping that to
and it worked?
Down.
It stopped the
fire? It stopped it, and they never got into the main part of the building, and that was a miracle.
Yes. Oh, especially
he was very surprised when he turned around, and the men, it takes 3 men to hold those hoses to go down there, and turn around. I was in high school, and I shouldn't even been there probably, and turned around and saw me and about died because I was the only one behind him.
Claire, what are some of your memories from those days?
Well, I think some of the most enjoyable memories was back in, say, the late 40s, early 50s. We had Hyde's Hamburger Joint, which was the place that everybody hung out in those days.
Where was that?
That was, well, I'm not sure just what is in there now. It would be about 100, 150 feet south of Washington Street on Main. Right, I think Joe Bernard's has a parking lot, and it would be the building next to that parking lot.
Okay, sure. And I think they own that building too. Right.
Could be.
And north of the post office now.
Sure, right.
But in those days, that was the teen hangout. And of course, anything that was going to get started that night usually started there. I remember one time Jim was mentioning the volunteer police department. Well, by that time, Milwaukee had a second policeman. So the fire chief the police chief at that time pulled in with the police car, and I don't recall, one thing led to another, and next thing he's handcuffed to the steering wheel of the police vehicle.
The police officer is?
The police chief, yes. And he's screaming and yelling, and of course he's a little embarrassed to call, because the only place he could call would be the county or the state, because there's certainly no other policeman on duty in Milwaukee, and that wouldn't look very well. So finally, after a little negotiation, he was released from his handcuffs when he realized that nothing was going to happen. But in those days, you could do things of that kind. You know, it's kind of like the old movie American Graffiti type of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Another time with them, when Doc was chief, Dick Humphrey, and maybe me,
You're not admitting to
right
anything?
in front of Diane's ice cream parlor's telephone pole, and we took a big heavy chain and wrapped it around the rear axle of the police car and locked him up on the side there, and so he came out. But you had a different deal with the police at that time. We all knew them, they knew us. We got into all kinds of trouble, but at the same time, when an accident happened on the highway or anything else, they'd be yelling, "Hey Jim, hey Claire, you know, do this flag," because there'd only be one cop.
Sure.
And he was using us, even though we were young. Nowadays, with liability, it'd be terrible.
Well, we used to do a lot of ride-alongs in those days.
Yeah, when
Right
we
along
were
with the police.
14, 15 years old. But they used us too, in that when there was some trouble, we had some tough areas out towards Baton,
Oh, yes.
and even Clackamas then, and they would take us into their confidence, and we literally pointed out who would have done certain things. But they would, we did some awful things. You know where Garthwick is? It has two entrances. Well, in those days, there was the old defense housing. So we'd take the cars into Garthwick then, and then run through there and tail chase through them, usually with Smitty mufflers. And this one time there was Jim Estes, whose brother was killed in the Second World War, and Phil Ropkins, and myself, and oh gosh, who else?
Careful now.
Chuck Bevins. And we ran through there once, and nothing happened because we could get to the one gate and look down and see the state police station down there.
Now, where was the police station?
It was still where it is now, McLaughlin.
Okay. Oh,
And
I see.
so we're looking up over that area, and nothing happened. Well, with the state police, they'd come up quiet, so you'd have to watch for them. But the Portland police, they were big show-offs. They'd come in with sirens blazing. So when they came in, we either got out the other gate, or we could drive through that congressman's now house driveway, and he's got a boat storage place to the side. What's his name? And you drive right across before the green at Waverly Country Club, and out the back way then. So you get
Who's
out.
that? I'm lost. Where is this?
In
This is in
Garthwick.
Garthwick.
Right.
This
So,
would be Gulf
is
Junction
a fenced
area.
in. That fenced in area between the railroad, the streetcar tracks, and,
Right.
and between Waverly Country Club and that road that comes in there. So, but this time we had a cop that was great. His name was Fred Rice.
Oh, yes.
And Fred would be right stopping everything all by himself. Well, he came up. We went through there twice, no trouble, so we went and drove down the ride. And the old vegetable stand was on the end of Milwaukie Avenue, where it came in Superhighway. And then we got down and then shot across the street with that car. And he looked out there and he says, you know, I don't know if you say it, "You Jim," and just yelled and screamed and raised hell with us. And then we went on, you know, he'd never give you a ticket.
Well, he was a red-headed Irishman.
And he would be helping us. But we did drag racing up Lake Road, where United Grocers is now, and right here at this
and
fire
kids,
station.
if you're watching this, don't do this.
And Webster broke off, and you had this big gravel place so you could get there. And one time, my wife had a big argument at school with Dean Ben, their folks own the Milwaukie Marketplace land. So we raced down from Webster down Lake, and you could see all the way down Lake as it bent up the hill like it does now, and all the way down to Milwaukie. And Jenny's Flowers, which just now tore apart by this new office building, and that was the finish line. So there must have been 20, 30 cars around there. And all of a sudden this car comes up in Jenny's Flowers, parks, turns on the dome light. And so I get elected to go down and talk to you, go down, pull up beside him. "Hi, Fred." "Hi, Jim." Big smile, you know. Stops it all by himself without ever doing anything.
Just by his presence.
Just
here,
by
and he
his
stops it.
presence at the deal.
They were fine people. It's like one of Milwaukee's finest, which they created the post of sergeant for, Jim Worrell. Of course, he died in the police car one time sitting in front of the city hall. But he was one of the finest policemen they had here in Milwaukie.
And he died of natural causes, I'm assuming.
Asphyxiation. police didn't maintain their police vehicle.
Oh my, that's a tragedy.
You had a lot different relationship between the cops
Considerably.
then, because
Sure.
you'd get into trouble, but nothing was vicious on this, and you didn't really hamper.
They'd tell your parents. That was worse.
Then you were in trouble.
Took them well, but you helped them out, and you just did a lot of different things. There was a lot more tolerant. This picture here kind of.
Well, tell us
shows
some about that. That's sort of interesting.
Well, this is one of the dances. Then I don't know if this could be seen or any
you will
place,
have
but,
Richard take a picture of it later.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
What this is, there's Lloyd Wisensee, whose family are old timers living out in Risley, and that's Jim Flynn, who is just retired out of the Portland Recreational District, myself, and we had horses and all that, so I had all this Western gear, and the costume balls were the big thing. And that's a 38 Smith & Wesson Special on my hip, and that cap sticking out, it's a half pint of whiskey. And I'd go to high school and college dances in that costume. That was a bone-handled 38. And not once did a teacher ever stop us or say much. Several of the teachers, they wouldn't look at my hip, but they'd look at that bottle of whiskey sitting out of the hip. And they'd look and think about it, but figured, well, we won't go into that and would be challenged. But now,
Can
to
you
show up
imagine
at a weapon now.
Right, with a gun and a bottle of whiskey? Oh my gosh.
But, you
With
know,
different times.
Yes.
It was a different thing. The principal then, buyers relied on kids to keep the dances down. There were dances that there'd be no teacher at the main door. And he would, he would look to us that things were going right.
Right.
And you had this respect from the teachers. At the same time you were messing up with them, but at the same time they put down the hammer and let you know what you're expected of you, and you did it and carried it off.
Yeah.
And,
Sounds like there was a lot of flexibility, but also that the limits were pretty firm. You can go this far, but no further.
no further, and you
And
made
you
sure
knew these
nothing
limits.
bad happened.
Yes.
You knew the limits,
You
right?
knew the limits, right. What are some of your memories from those times, Dick?
Oh, you used to go swimming in Johnson Creek, where you entered the Willamette, and then some at Kellogg Lake. But I remember when they built the swimming pool at the junior high school, and the junior high wasn't finished yet. The dressing room was over underneath the old school where the City Hall is now, and then you dress there and then go over to the pool. And it was the furnace room for the old school, and you can imagine what a furnace room in those days looked like. So, but that, and then I remember too going to, at the some of the picnics at
Crystal Lake.
Crystal Lake Park. Yeah. The Damascus Milk Company had one every year, Iron Fireman. So, but we'd sneak in the back, through the back, and then you go up to the front and say, "Hey, we forgot to get stamped." So you get stamped, and then you go back, and the
Union picnics were big in those days.
The buttermilk at Damascus Milk Company there's nothing like it today. And we get things, eat up as much as you want. And the Iron Fireman had a great picnic, furnished everything. And so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That was a wonderful, wonderful part.
Yeah.
It's too bad we lost that. That was a real shame.
Yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned about business in Milwaukee. That's been, PNC Tool Company. That's Peterson, who lived in the Scarthwick area, and CN Tool later was bought by Proto and then Stanley.
Oh, right.
But that tool company was right where Schindler's house was there on that corner.
He built the first building there. It was originally a alarm, telephone alarm place, and where they would take telephone calls and take messages and things like that. Well, apparently it didn't work out, and then he enticed Peterson and Carlson, and Peterson lived directly across catty corner from that place there, and they built a tool plant, and
And this is
I was just
near Harrison, right?
yes,
Harrison,
it's
32nd.
Right.
Actually, 32nd.
32nd of
All right.
Llewellyn.
Mm-hmm.
And one time I used to go up there, and this was about just between in front of the hospital. They had a little old shack back there, and I couldn't figure out what it was, and looked around, and here was a lid, or a wooden lid, and there's some sticks and stuff in it. And I took it home to find out what it was. Was dynamite.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, things like normally nobody even know the difference, but they expanded, and that was quite active tool plant during the war, especially, and afterwards, and made great tools.
Right, they were in company
Yeah.
in operation for many years.
Oh, yes.
And
Yeah.
really tough. Mainly it's because of the heat treaters. One was Pete Mortensen, who
Yeah.
bought the plant there, the lake, off of Monroe, where
my
his father's was.
grandpa had the furniture factory there.
Oh, right
and,
there.
And then Pete changed it to a house and fixed it all up.
Yeah.
And Pete was involved with the heat treating for Oregon Saw Chain, and he worked for them.
And that's now Blunt, right?
Oh, it used to be Omar.
Mark, now
Old Mark, yeah.
Blunt.
First, then it was Oregon Saw Chain. He put
right.
them how to heat treat the teeth for the saw chain. That was Pete's part of it. He had an office then. Then they moved him out, and he was temporary for Precision Cast Parts when they started that.
And that's on Johnson Creek Boulevard, right?
Uh-huh. And then he went back. He's at Omark, and Carlson from Omark and Pete and other guys started Ray Carlton, and Carlton built the saw chain then, and Pete, and then Pete had a machine shop behind Milwaukie Hardware, and they were all building machines.
And where was
for these
Milwaukie
things.
Hardware?
Milwaukie Hardware is where right next to where the Key Bank is right now.
Yeah.
To the north. It was a wooden
Harry Ray's.
building right in. Harry Ray's, and then Milwaukie Hardware.
Okay.
It's Harry Ray first. And it was right where the furniture store was built.
Hamilton's,
now,
right?
Dolman.
Yeah, Hamilton's at one
Well,
time.
right.
And before that, it was
Well,
what?
Hamilton's,
Hesley's.
where that building was, there was houses in there, but Harry Ray, and then there was Dolman's and Red and White Grocery, where
another
the Key
grocery
Bank is
store.
right now.
Ah.
And the top floor of one of those houses was a red light district.
Ah.
Yeah. But,
Milwaukee had everything.
Yes,
oh, yeah.
up and coming.
But Pete was really instrumental in that, and then called the honorary Norwegian. It's amazing how we're all tied. We all went to grade school together. He was an old guy. He was a couple years older than Claire and I.
Talk some about the Japanese who lived in the area and what happened with internment to them.
Well, I remember picking beans for them. This was now up there, which is the industrial area off of Railroad Avenue. And suddenly, as a kid, you don't really pay that much attention, but you heard a lot of things going on. And next year, there was white people running the bean plants.
There used to be a Japanese school up there.
They're on Railroad Avenue?
Just off of Railroad Avenue.
Really?
I think part of that
still
building
there.
still stands, I think.
Still stands, and there's quite a few Japanese left in that area.
There was a lot of them.
Some of them had a couple of excellent ball players that went to Milwaukee High School. Played that
Great
Watanabe,
guys.
and I remember.
There was a big family of Watanabes.
Yeah.
Do they still live in the area? That name is so familiar.
I think there's still some might be around.
Yeah, I think so.
There's
One of the
a
girls-
famous
Yoshitomi.
Admiral Watanabe was in charge of the raid on Pearl Harbor too.
Oh, right.
So that's
Yeah.
why the
That
name's
could be,
familiar.
right.
But It's just like the Jones family, you know.
You're right, a common name.
Yeah.
That's interesting because this is the first I'd
Yeah.
ever heard that we had Japanese living in the area.
lots
of- we had a
large.
That's
very
Celery
large
Gardens,
never
north of
Celery
Ted
Garden.
Ben's. Ted Ben is where Milwaukie Marketplace is, and where the warehouse, where the deal is, and also the Minthorn Springs is all in there. Then on
Everything
out from
above
there was
37th.
the Walsh property, and they leased land to the Japanese.
Ah,
And the Milwaukie people were really upset that those Japanese were moving out. These are all terrific people.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was a real light on America's history. There was some story about a go-kart or some kind little cart.
Oh.
What is that story
Well,
about?
Dad, in a sheet metal shop, I had a little coaster car. It was like a kid's quarter midget now. And when I was too young to really pull it. Dick Schindler and Harry Teal and Kenny Rates, and who else was up there? And they'd pull the dang thing up the hills, and usually go down about twice before they'd let me go drive my own car down. But we were putting this car down, which is right now Harrison Street, from Walsh's house on top of the hill, which must be about 37th.
37.
And we'd coast down to 32nd in front of his house and then turn around and take it back up. There was a dip in the middle of the road at that time, but
They
we were
could stop
coast
you a little
right
bit.
down the main street, and there'd be cars coming the other direction at times. And nobody paid much attention to it.
Not the traffic today, though.
No.
No, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And something about moving the Grange. What was that story? The Grange moving?
I don't remember.
Well, at one time, M&N had the old blacksmith shop, and they had torn that down and rented the Grange next door and built their new building. Well, then when they decided to add on to the building, they had to move things out of that Grange across the street to the old car barns. Well, I was working at M&N at that time, and of course, Jim and his brothers always seemed to work out the best deal because all of the furnace filters, fiberglass furnace filters, were stored in the attic of this Grange hall. So I would be down, they would be throwing them down loose. I'm catching these fiberglass filters. Of course, I'm sweating and it's hot. The fiberglass really scratched
Sticks
a little
to you.
bit.
Oh, that's miserable stuff to work with. And you're still friends?
Well,
Yeah. Always have been. That's where you got production. We're working hard at heck to keep throwing. Nothing you can get to.
And there was a plane crash somewhere in the area. What was that story about?
That was a P-39
P-
Bel Air
P-39
Cobra.
Bel Air.
Yeah.
Well, it was a Sunday morning. In fact, I remember that morning I was down at M&N for some reason. Your dad and you and I think Paul was there. Anyway, we heard this plane coming in low, and we jumped in the old truck and headed south on 99, McLaughlin. And we were there shortly after it had crashed. It took the breakfast nook off of a house. The house still stands today. But as I remember it, people came in. The pilot was still alive at the time, and he had said something about, did I hit a church? But anyway, before the police got there, somewhere his leather jacket and flight boots and gun all disappeared.
And what does that mean?
It doesn't mean very well.
So somebody walked off with these things?
While the man is laying there dying.
Oh my goodness.
Because we got there maybe 10 minutes afterwards, and the police.
He put the plane down between two streets and backyards. It hit one house, the back angle of one house.
And where did
but
this
he put
happen?
it down on Courtney. He
Well,
came in over
He's south of Courtney.
Redwood.
McLaughlin.
If you know where the U-Haul shop is, there would be immediately behind U-Haul's plant there on 99.
On McLaughlin,
Oh,
yeah.
McLaughlin. Ah.
Came in almost to Oldfield Road. He crashed between McLaughlin and Oldfield.
Okay.
He came in and he put it in right in the middle of the backyards of these houses. Another interesting thing there to note, one of the guys that lived there on one back of one of those streets is named Rennie Gagnon. And he went to St. John School. And his uncle was one of the flag raisers. He was there for a short time and then went to
What do you
California.
mean a flag raiser?
From the Iwo Jima flag
Oh,
raisers.
oh, okay.
The Gagnon, what's his first name?
I don't
Was
remember.
Renee was.
Yeah.
Was it Rennie?
I believe it was. I just
I
saw an
think it is.
article on TV the other night on it.
He went from there down and worked in an aircraft plant in California, and that's close enough to the Marine Corps. They joined the Marine then, and was in on the Iwo Jima campaign. But he was a short time there, living in Milwaukee.
So Milwaukee has some history there too. Well, what are some other histories from your youth? We have about 5 more minutes.
Yeah. It's a different word. I used to play on the streets of Milwaukee when it was business because my people were there, and you'd go into the First State Bank, and a very well-loved man was president was Mr. Zanders. But myself at, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years old was scared to death of him.
Why were you scared of him?
Well, I don't know. Well, he was big, and he was younger, and I'm a kid coming in the bank, and he's looking at me. And I guess
He was
that's
a fine
all
man, Jim. He lived across the street from me.
Everyone says, you know, why should I be scared of him? But I'd sneak into the old guy, and I'm sure it was Mr. Stride, and he'd pull into his desk and give me candy, and out I'd go look at Mr. Sanders. It was sure different. What I really noticed too is the way the kids are. I live on between Aldercrest and Lake, and I know kids live in certain places. I say maybe once or twice a year. But when I was a kid, we would range from Scheibert's house on King Street, and maybe ride horses to the top of Mount Scott when we were 7th and 8th grade almost every day. And you want a BB gun fight, you'd go out on, especially in the summer when the water's low, you'd wade out to Rock Island, out there BB gun fight. You want to go swim.
You mean Elk Rock Island? You'd wait out there?
Elk Rock Island. You want to go swimming, you got on the bicycle and went down to Gladstone at High Rocks. So we're ranging an area there of many miles. And nowadays kids are in their house and don't go that far.
I know it, yeah.
But what I really remembered of Milwaukee was that it was really a community. You could walk down Main Street and you knew everybody and they knew you. There was a lot of things going on. There were a lot of parades and so forth. People joined in, picnics going on, all sorts of things. It was really lively.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I've heard people who live in Oak Grove say the same kinds of things, and everybody knew everybody else there. And now folks are saying, you know, they don't know anybody who lives 2 houses away.
The high school district encompassed everything from Portland city limits to Gladstone.
Right.
And
The river on out.
How far out? Way out.
Past Clack and Mr. Carver.
Yeah. But so you knew everybody around lived in this area.
Sure.
At least I did. I didn't go to high school in Milwaukee, but I knew more Milwaukee people than the high school kids than I did at Central or into high school.
You went to Central Catholic High School,
yeah.
right.
You rode the streetcars then?
Oh, yeah. Rode the streetcar every day, in and out.
How long did it take you to get from Milwaukee to Central Catholic?
It was all the way there, a little over 30 minutes.
Yeah. You probably couldn't go that fast.
Well, you went downtown and transferred and went up.
Really?
Yeah, went down to, got off at Hawthorne and took the bridge transfer down to Morrison, then took the Sunnyside streetcar out. This is all on 5-cent fare.
See, I always went into downtown.
Transfers each time you went.
I went into downtown and caught Mount Tabor, Monteville, and went out.
Yeah.
You want to tell me about this
To regress a little, that's a PNC key ring screwdriver. This one's plain because the other two I value too much to be packing around, but one of them has Pete Mortensen's name on it, and the other has a Navy anchor. For the guy that's the foreman there, his name was Anchor Jensen. And I have
Why was it
2
Anchor
of those.
Jensen? Why?
So that was his name.
Oh.
So for his name, he put this Navy anchor. And that was his logo and symbol for him, and those were the key 2 places at that place.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, you 2 fellas went to Milwaukee High School, right?
Yes.
No.
And, where did you go, Claire?
I went to St. John's my freshman year, and I went 3 years to Central.
Central Catholic, along with him.
Correct.
So what year did you graduate from high school?
46.
46?
48.
48?
49.
49. Okay. Yeah. Great. Well, we have about, no, we don't. We don't have any time left. This has gone by so fast. Thank you so much, gentlemen. It's really fun to hear about
Yeah.
the memories of Milwaukee. I love Milwaukee a lot, and it's great to hear how Milwaukee has gotten to where it is today. A tremendous history. Thank you very much for
Sure.
being with us, Dick Schindler, Jim Newman, and Claire. I'm going to say Claire Shipman, who is a reporter. Claire Kuppenbender. Thank you so much. This is State Representative Carolyn Tomei. You've been watching Milwaukee today, and this is the third in a series of Yesteryear in Milwaukee. And we'll be seeing you again next week. Bye-bye.